So thanks everybody for coming. Thanks for the honor of this award. I'll say my thank yous now since I have to leave quickly at the end. And congratulations to MAC and to AIChE and to you, Mr. Chairman, and you, the wizard. We'll call him the wizard. He's behind the curtain in the background, making sure everything goes well. And to my fellow honorees, who actually have real technical stuff to talk about. So I'll be very brief. Mine is the journey of a chemical engineer who decided to go a slightly different path. I grew up in New Orleans. I did my undergraduate work at Tulane. I got to chemical engineering because I was a really good student in math and science, and NACME, the Consortium for Minorities in Engineering, found me. They were having a competition at Tulane University. I was a junior in high school. I had no idea what an engineer was. I thought engineers ran trains. And I wanted to be a doctor because that's what if you were good at math and science, then your parents would look at you and say, my baby's going to be a doctor. And they were offering an HP programmable calculator. It was either HP, it might have been TI. But if you completed this 4-week program at Tulane, you got one of these calculators. And we couldn't afford one. And I wanted this calculator. Now people always laugh when I tell them that, and I say, that calculator was like the iPhone back then. It was the technology you wanted if you were interested in science and technology, but it was the technology we couldn't afford. My dad was a mailman. My mom was a secretary. We called them secretaries back then. Now we say assistants. And so I went to this summer program and I learned what engineering was, and I changed my major from pre-med to engineering pre-med, chemical engineering pre-med, and I was in school, and it was around the time when the major hazardous waste sites were becoming known to people. Love Canal, the major sources of industrial chemical waste that were polluting our country. Eventually we passed a law to handle it. And I remember very well, and this is the challenge if you remember nothing else of my words today, I give to each of you students who are here and practitioners, which was, I remember thinking, it's chemical engineering processes that make the waste that was disposed of in Love Canal or in lots of the famous dumps around the country. And it's going to be chemical engineers who figure out how to clean it up and eventually how to prevent pollution like that from occurring in other communities, not just in our own country, but around the world. The price of industrial and economic growth, to answer your question, Mr. Chairman, is not the environment. It never had to be, it never should be. We figured out the technologies it takes to clean our air. We figured out the technologies it takes to clean our water. They're all just process flow diagrams of one type or another, many of them borrowed from other types of technologies, be it chemical manufacturing, oil drilling, or otherwise. We need systems thinkers to join those lines together again. Just like the field of chemical engineering, so I left Tulane and then went to Princeton. And I was going to be a PhD and teach, but it wasn't really my calling. And I have great admiration for the teachers among us who helped so many of us get through the tough days, the tough classes, the days when inevitably some amount of doubt is forced to creep into your life because you're somehow taught or led to believe that you don't understand things nearly as well as your classmates. And that also, if you remember only a second thing, is untrue. It is absolutely untrue that you don't understand it or you can't comprehend it or aren't able to be as much an expert as the person sitting next to you or in front of you or behind you. So I left and got my master's at Princeton and went into public service. Made my way there quickly because at the time working in the government was one of the best places to be. For a young person, the government traditionally doesn't have a lot of staff, so they hire you, and if you're smart and you're aggressive, you move up fast and you get responsibility fast. And I did. I started at the EPA in 1987, and in 2009, Barack Obama named me to be the head of the EPA. So I did 4 years, and my public service career was about 25 years, and I remember thinking when I took the job, this is the last public service job I'll ever have because there's no higher calling for me. I reached the top of the profession in the area I love. Now it's time to go do something different. I'm 51 years old, and that something different happens to be working for a company I'm coming to really love, which is Apple. Apple thinks differently, it's innovative, it's big, but it thinks still like a startup in many ways. And that level of creativity on the issues we deal with, whether it be in our supply chain, in our energy use. How many of you know that Apple's data centers are 100% driven by renewables? So when you're working in our cloud, in our little piece of the cloud, it's smaller than others, it's all driven by clean energy. Those are the things that the private sector can do with resources and determination and an understanding that you don't have to, that technology is the way you get the environment to stay clean and healthy, and you get economic growth to maintain, become strong, continue to be stronger. So happy to answer any questions, but I'm like most of you, I'm also really interested in hearing from these distinguished gentlemen.